South African Army is hosting a memorial service of the centenary of the World War I in a form of a Remembrance Parade. Now, the Chief of the Army, the South African Army, will lead a wreath-laying ceremony to honor fallen heroes and heroines. Let's go live now to our reporter Patricia Visagie, who's there. Patricia, a very good morning to you. I guess, World War I started in 1914, so it's our great-great-grandparents who would have experienced this. What's your experience on the ground today, all these years later?
Well, good afternoon, or rather good morning to you and of course to our viewers. Yes, certainly many years ago, and you would perhaps have to imagine that a whole lot of people who lived through that particular history of World War I, many of them are not with us today, but the history remains. And I think that is what's happening here at the Army headquarters as we mark the centenary of World War I, of course in honor of the heroes and heroines that fought that great war and paved the way for us to be here today. And we heard, of course, the Chief of Army, and that is Lieutenant General Lindile Yam, who addressed the Army here and the media that is covering this particular event, speaking of how important it is to mark this particular piece of history. Now, we know that the official date is not today. That will be happening on Sunday. That is when the official commemoration will be taking place. But I think throughout this month, throughout this week, we've been seeing a whole lot of events to remember the history of that particular era that is taking place worldwide, globally. So we've seen certain events, and of course South Africa joining in. So let's speak to the Chief of Army, as I said, Lieutenant Lindile Yam, just again for him to elaborate why the significance and why it is so important for the South African Army to stand in honor of the men and women who fought this great war.
The South African Army at the time was fully a part as an army of this country, which was part of what we call today the Commonwealth. So the soldiers of South Africa fought in that war. And there is a saying, when we remember our own, that if you have noticed, we will remember them. There's nothing as important to soldiers than knowing that they'll be remembered. They are not flamboyant people. They are not people of material things, but they are people of sacrifice. They are people of honor who always have got their people at heart. So when you say we will remember them, that's what they want to know, that it will be said when they are gone. Wherever they may be, their graves, they want a surety that you will not dump their graves. Even if they are not known exactly or spotted exactly, all they want to know is that assurance. So we want to tell our soldiers of today that whatever happens, we will remember you. We are a bond forever. And this as well is to pay respect to some of those nations who fought side by side with us in that war.
We're marking a century since the Great War. What is different this year as we mark this milestone? Now, we've had many commemorations over the year, but this time around, 100 years, that's a big number. What are we doing differently as South Africa, joining the globe at large?
Just take it within the context of what is happening in the world today. Conflicts have grown, and it was First World War, then it was Second World War. After Second World War, there was an intent to achieve peace through the United Nations. All efforts were done. There was hope that polarization, would come to an end, that the bonding of the human race would have come together. But we see conflicts, even in our continent, increasing with different type or nature of wars today. As I have said, asymmetric war, which mostly features terrorism, cyber effects of war, intrastate type of war. We would like to end this. We would like to achieve peace. we need to find out, have we, in the last 100 years, achieved peace? I'm sorry to say, the reality is no. So doing this, we're trying to reach out to the people to say, we can't be burying all the time. We can't be saying we remember all the time. There's a time where we must come to an end. Soldiers that are fighting these wars, which they must, are human beings too. They would like peace and stability. So it's a question of promoting peace and stability, which is more on what the South African government believes. Together we can do more.
Now, the official day will be marked this coming Sunday, globally so. Is there anything special that the South African Army is planning on Sunday, or does it end here today?
As you have seen, some of my generals have not been here today. They have started marking with their own formations everywhere. So this is something very close and dear to our hearts. On Sunday, we will be there as the South African Army and the main role player in Johannesburg in particular, and in a number of other parts of the country where we have assigned soldiers to lead this commemoration on behalf and as assigned by General Shoga, the Chief of the South African National Defence Force.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant General. There, the South African Chief of Army. Just in a nutshell, again, speaking of the significance of commemorating World War I, and of course, just keeping the men and women in our thoughts, the men and women who paid the ultimate price for peace. For now, let's give it back to you in studio.
Yeah, we can't forget the people that paid the ultimate price for peace, those on board the SS Mendi. I think it's been over 100 years now since the sinking of the SS Mendi. I think it was back in 1917 when tragedy struck in the English Channel, where the SS Daro crashed into the SS Mendi. Originally there was, if my memory serves me correct, there was about 800 troops on board, and they were mainly from the South African Native Labour Corps. And when tragedy struck, over 600 soldiers, troops, mainly black South African troops, died on that day. So those troops very much in the minds of the people, of the minds, in especially days like this, and especially on Sunday. Okay, let